Hello, BookTube, and this is the second in an ongoing series until I'm finished of Britain in Pictures, looking at 5 books at a time, these essays. And today I start with British Ports and Harbours by Leo Walmsley, published in 1942. Mr. Walmsley says, "We island dwellers are apt to take the existence of our ports and harbours for granted. But this is less true at the present time, for the war has brought home to all of us their vital importance." He analyzes in a vivid personal narrative the conditions necessary for the development of a great port and describes the growth of our harbours from the early days of sail to the latest triumphs of modern engineering. His survey ranges round the coast of Britain, from the fishing harbours in East Anglia to the great commercial docks of London, Liverpool and Glasgow. Mr. Walmsley points out that natural advantages would not in themselves have been sufficient to ensure the growth of a vast maritime empire without the traditional skill and foresight of its shipbuilders and the equal skill, foresight, and audacity of its mariners. And it's just I really like this cover because of the lighthouse that's on it. And again, I always show the inside just to show that they're just fabulous. It's got the same back as the others with the listing, map of England with the ports. Well, you can't really read too much of that unless you had a magnifying glass. Shipping alongside the West India Docks, London, lithographed by W. Parrott, 1813 to 1869. Liverpool in 1846, seen from Upper Tremere, Cheshire. Colored lithograph by J. McGarry. Very different looking now. Oh, this one's nice. South prospect of Dover in 1739 at the top here, and the west prospect of His Majesty's Dockyard in Chatham, 1738. Colored engravings by S. and N. Buck. Absolutely fabulous. I need to stop saying that word fabulous. Sorry. Whitby, Yorkshire. I wonder that may not have changed that much. I've seen pictures of modern day Whitby. I don't know if that's actually changed too much. Anybody who, if you're from Whitby or are very familiar with it, do let me know how that's changed, if at all. Black and white engravings. Black and white engravings are just nice as well. I do like these little headers that are sort of cityscapes or landscapes across. I really like those. Grimsby, Selling Fish, watercolor by Thomas Rowlandson. Oh, I like Thomas Rowlandson's caricatures and so forth. A fish market on the beach, watercolor. They say watercolors, but they are in black and white. But I do like Rowlandson. Entrance to Portsmouth Harbour, oil painting by J. Lynn, 1846. That, I suspect, has changed much. I was in a couple times I think I've been in Portsmouth. Falmouth Harbour, circa 1841. Color lithograph by Newman and Company. That's really cool. Again, I bet that's changed a little bit. Bristol. That definitely has changed. Greenock in 1840, and at the top in Leith Harbour in 1842. Yeah, and again the same on the back. This is one that I like. This could almost go up into my inn section. Well, it's called English Inns by Thomas Burke. He did do several books on inns and other pastimes type thing for it slipped my mind. The publisher that I've got as another publisher that I have, the colorful draw, Batsford, that's it, for Batsford. It's Thomas Burke. The English Inn is let me start this again. The English Inn is world famous. It has a character and quality that is unique. The traveler in England, no less than the Englishman himself, has his favorite village, and the atmosphere of that village is largely determined by the character of the local inn. The earliest inns in England were the Maison Dieu, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, along the pilgrim routes to Canterbury and Glastonbury, and the ports used by those going on pilgrimage abroad. Such inns as the Star at Alfriston and the Angel at Grantham. Later, the inns developed for the service of ordinary travelers. Then came the coaching inns, to be succeeded by a bad period when travel was diverted from the roads to the new railways, and custom left the inn for the railway hotel. But with the advent of motor cars and bicycles, travelers returned to the roads and rediscovered the pleasures of the English inn. That I really like. I like that aspect where it changed. It looks like they were going to disappear, but then something else comes along, and they work again. And they're probably on their way out. But anyway, again, this is a bit rough around the edges, and somebody's made a list ticking off on the back. This one is published in 1945. It's got, again, I do like that little banners. Oh, that's a nice one. The trip to Jerusalem. Oh yeah, the Jerusalem in Nottingham. It's apparently maybe one of the oldest pubs, I think, that are still running in England. Because you can see it backs up. From what I understand, it backs up, and it's got cellars that are way underground in the living rock, basically. If anybody knows or been there, I'd curious to see in the comments if I'm right. I know I can Google all this, but I'm going from faulty memory. The King's Arms, Dorchester. Oh, there's a colored Thomas Rowlandson. I really like his and his caricatures. I like him more than Gilroy. Here's a woodcut from Caxton's Game of Cheese. I'm going to spend a little more time on this because I like this one. The Feathers, Ludlow, early 19th century watercolor by George Shepard. Well, black and white in here. The Sun Public House, watercolor after William Hogarth, 1697 to 1764. Again, a black and white. Maybe I should hold it up a little more than that. I like this one. The Man with the Load of Mischief. Ensign attributed to William Hogarth. Oil painting on panel. A Bedroom at an Inn. Yard of the King's Arms, High Holborn, London. There's one on before that. Inn and Post Office, colored engraving from Eugene Lamy's Voyage en Angleterre, 1830. Again, black and white. Maybe I shouldn't go through every picture here, but I do like, oh, this is good. Tam O'Shanter at the Inn, watercolor by George Cruikshank, 1792 to 1878. Cruikshank is good too. Like his stuff. But I don't know, there's something about Rowlandson, Thomas Rowlandson, that really, really catches my eye. Recruiting at an Inn. Recruiting is this sort of, you know, hitting them over the head and dragging them on the ship. West Country Mails at the Gloucester Coffee House, Piccadilly. Ooh, like coffee houses as well. Dr. Syntax reading his tour in the kitchen of the Dun Cow. Thomas Rowlandson from Combe's tour of Dr. Syntax in Search of a Pilgrimage, 1868. Yeah, again, yeah. This is sort of, to me, typical of Rowlandson. There's playfulness in this, you know, caricature, and things going on in the background, like the lovers in the back corner there that are not even, you know, paying attention to him at all. And it looks like somebody's falling asleep, you know, there. And, you know, the maid or whatever it might be shocked at what's going on. Yeah, I that's the kind of stuff I like with his. Signboard from the White Hart, Whitley, Surrey. Yeah, I'll just go through the colored ones here, the rest of them, unless there's something else that pops out nicely. Smoke Room from the Inn, Ashopton, Derbyshire. Watercolor by Kenneth Roundtree. Don't know who he is. That must be a little more recent. Yeah, it doesn't say date on it. That's it. A Tavern at Knightsbridge, London. Yeah, I like inns. The Guilds of the City of London. Sir Ernest Pooley. Again, another wonderful design. Again, it's peeling on the spine, and I'd love to get these all in, you know, dust jacket protection, just to preserve them the way they are, because you pull them out, and every time there's little flakes that come off into my fingers. This one was published in 1945. Sir Ernest Pooley has had long and varied contacts with the life of the City of London. From 1908 to July 1944, he was clerk to the Drapers' Company, of which he is now master. He is a member of the Senate and Court of the University of London, treasurer and honorary fellow of Queen Mary College, and one of the honorary secretaries of King Edward's Hospital Fund for London. His love for the city, his knowledge of its history, and the respect of its tradition and achievement make him an ideal author for this book on the guilds of the City of London, in whose story is reflected the whole history of the city itself. Much of the early character of the trade guilds has gone insofar as it related to the control of the trade, the strict organization of apprentices and master craftsmen, and the sale and the distribution of goods along some companies, although some companies, such as the fishmongers, which continues to manage the great markets at Billingsgate, are still closely connected with their original trade. The companies still maintain their ancient ceremonies and take responsibility for considerable works of charity and benevolence, and for the support of schools and colleges such as the Merchant Taylors, St. Paul's, Oundle, Tunbridge, and many others. And again, the cover, nice purple. And yeah, there's still prices in some of these. £1 I paid for it. Published 1945, if I had said that or not. Yeah, just, you know, these are St. Cosmo and St. Damon, patron saints of the barber surgeons. Portrait of Queen Elizabeth, wife of Edward IV, and member of the Skinner's Fraternity of Our Lady's Assumption. Very colorful and intricate. The City, section of Ralph Aga's Map of London, circa 1560. I love those. Coats of arms of the 12th great companies in 1667. Probably a little hard to see that, but they're kind of. I love the arms, coat of arms. Oh, here's a better one. Portion of funeral pall with the company's arms, 1662. A bit dark, but nice. The plantation of Ulster. Now that's gonna be problematic at times. I think they when it was done, the plantation. The Lord Mayor's mansion house, colored engraving by Foundriner after Wales, 1745. This one's going to be a bit long because I spent too much time probably on the inns. Lord Nelson's funeral procession by water from Greenwich Hospital to Whitehall, January 8th, 1806. Colored engraving by J. Clark and H. Merck after Turner. One more. A view of the Guildhall of the City of London. Again, that almost looks like a photograph. So we got two more to go. Yeah. English Gardens by Harry Roberts. This one is pretty good. There's a bit of fading on the spine. Discolored. Purple, because it's sort of, not purple, pinkish sort of color. Doesn't matter if it's not in the sun. If it's in the sun, it can get really bad, but it can fade just by indoor lights. Dr. Harry Roberts. After the war, nearly all gardens in private hands will be essentially villa gardens or cottage gardens. We shall then see who among us are real gardeners. And these are quotation. That's a quotation. Writes the author in his introduction and adds, the quote, greatest joy which a garden can yield is a feeling of restfulness and peace, a feeling which no garden of staring beds and ostentatious splendor can afford, but which is yielded as by nothing else in the world by an old-fashioned garden of happy, homely, old-fashioned flowers, end of quote. In this book, Dr. Roberts follows the main historical developments in English gardening, which he traces largely through the contemporary sources of each period, from which he makes many fascinating quotations. Dr. Harry Roberts is a very remarkable Englishman. For over 30 years, he has practiced in Stepney and is famous among a large and critical East End population. But although his medical practice has been for the greater part of his life in London, he is essentially a countryman and has always contrived to live in the country. From his earliest years, he was a gardener, interested not in the ordinary appearance of his flower beds, but in the plants themselves. And although he has written many books on medical subjects and been medical correspondent in some of the leading papers in the country, one of his earliest publications was his Chronicle of the Cornish Garden, which recorded how, from, quote, a hapless, irregular, poverty-struck patch, end quote, in Cornwall, he made a real and flourishing garden. This was published in 1944. So there's black and white illustrations again. The bland amaryllis, from a colored engraving, but obviously black and white. Roses, colored engraving by Earlham after R.J. Thornton, from Thornton's Temple of Flora of Garden of Nature, 1799. Designed for a flower garden, from H. Repton's Observation on the Theory of Practice of Landscape Garden, 1803. Wow. If you're interested in gardening, those are the kind of books you'd want. Garden at Cambridge Cottage, Kew, drawn by H. Walter. That's kind of interesting. Hoswell House and Grounds, Somerset. Oil painting by J.I. Richards. Died 1810, I think that's what it means. Oh, this is a cute one. Cottage Garden at Stapleford, Wiltshire. Watercolor by G.F. Caroline, circa 1886. The Greenhouse, oil painting by Stanley Spencer, 1938. The Backyard Landscape Farm, Cockington, Devonshire, oil painting by Dorothy Belasco. I like that. I like the color scheme on that. View from the garden at Ladywood, Gransmere, Westmoreland, oil painting by Gilbert Spencer, 1942. So yeah, and again, it's another essay because it's I didn't sort of know exactly. I thought they varied in page lengths, but they all seem to be. Every one that I've looked at is 48 pages. So it's interesting. How many we got here? It did 4. So one last one. British Maps and Map Makers by Edward Lynham, maybe, yeah. So nice, again, faded spine, red, fades. It's a bit rough on the back there. You can see it's folded over. This was published 1944, that is. Edward Lamb. Probably few people realize the many-sided interest and charm of early English maps and coastal charts, yet they're inextricably bound up with our history and culture. The Plantagenet Wars, the distribution of monastic estates to laymen, or our maritime expansion under Elizabeth, the Buccaneers' raid in the Pacific under Charles II, the enclosure of common lands, the 45, the building of post-chaise roads, canals, and Palladian seats for the gentry, and the growth of the British Empire under George III are all recorded in our maps and charts. At the same time, scientific research by Elizabethan seamen, by the Royal Society founded by Charles II, and by the Ordnance Survey, together with the invention of new instruments from the astrolabe to the cross-staff, from the plane table to the theodolite, were gradually perfecting methods of surveying. The ornament, symbols, lettering, and colors upon maps reflect the fashion of their times, changing from the illuminated maps drawn on parchment by medieval monks to the extravagant pseudo-classical cartouches and delicate copper engravings and writing of the 16th century, on to the massive Baroque of Dutch William's time and the graceful Rococo and Empire styles of George III's reign. Mr. Layman, who writes with enthusiasm as well as expert knowledge, is among other things superintendent of the map room of the British Museum and honorary secretary of the Hakluyt Society. This, unfortunately, somebody has used, in English here, I'll say Tipex for English people, or whiteout, or white, I forget what it's called in Canada and the United States, but I only paid £1 for it, so that's okay. Abbeys, Manors, and Wayfarers, that's the first section. That sounds interesting. Oh, yes, this is getting into like Matthew Paris's map of Great Britain circa 1250, detail of southern England. Looks a little bit different, I would say, but not that the land has changed so much, but it got more accurate. Hereford World Map, Detail of the Nile. Ooh, Nile Delta. Wow, that's cool. So it should actually really be like this, I think. Or maybe not. I'm not sure now. I don't get the perspective on that. Manuscript plan of Chertsey Abbey, 1432, from the cartulary of Chertsey Abbey. Cool. This is actually some of the closest look at some of these as well that I've taken, because they were things that I collected and I got a whole bunch at the same time, so it took a while. Or it didn't take a while. I mean, I haven't, looked that closely into every single one. This one I don't think I have. Cartouche by Rithiers on Saxton's map of Durham, 1576. So the back. Cartouche on W. Mayo's map of Barbados, 1722. That's really intricate. Excuse me. Intricate. The village of Kenneton, Warwickshire, from the 25-inch Ordnance Survey map, first edition, 1885 to 1887. And one more, maybe? No more coloreds. What's this here? From J. Rokes, London and the Country 10 Miles Round, 1746. That would be really cool to have. There we go. There's the next 5. And I'll see you again for a further 5. Take care, buddy.